Hello everybody, this is Rob and welcome to R&B Reviews. Now the summer blockbuster season is officially over, and normally what I've been doing for the last several years is I've been doing videos where I would kind of grade the movies that I saw over the summer. I used to do a video where I would pick the best, worst, and disappointing movies of the summer, but this time I decided to do something different. I decided to actually grade the movies. So what I'm going to be doing with this video is I'm going to take every single summer blockbuster movie I saw since April up until the end of August, and I'm going to grade them. Like, for example, I'll be using the A plus to F scale, so I'll be rating them like A, B, C, D, all that other stuff, just like in school. And I'll also be talking a little bit about what I thought of the movies and what I liked and what I disliked about each of them. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We kicked off the summer blockbuster season with a big event movie of the summer. That was Avengers Endgame. Now, obviously, it is a continuation of Infinity War and not only ended Phase 3, in some ways it ended a lot of what had been going on since the first Iron Man movie. Now, I thought it was a very satisfying movie. It is a darker, character-driven movie, and while it was 3 hours, I felt like the filmmakers, the Russo brothers, as well as the cast and the writers, did a very good job at having the time keeping the movie moving at a very good pace. It was full of suspense and some trademark Marvel humor, as well as stuff for the fans. Now, you do have to see most of the Marvel movies to get everything, as well as the various such as references and to past characters and moments. I was kind of disappointed that Captain Marvel didn't play a more active role in the movie like I thought she would. I thought that maybe she would be going with the Avengers on this mission that ended up happening in the movie. But nonetheless, I give the Avengers Endgame an A. Now, the next movie I'll be looking at is Tolkien, which is a biopic starring Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the books The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I was really looking forward to this movie, but in the end, I kind of found it to be a bit of a disappointment, and I was expecting more out of it. What I did like about this movie was it showed, Tolkien how, after tragic events, as a boy, he bonded with friends later on when he went to Oxford, where he discovered his love of literature and language. I also liked how Tolkien met the woman who would become his wife, Edith, and explored class and religious distinctions. I thought Hoult and Lily Collins, who plays Edith, had great chemistry together. But the movie felt more like a crash course in the history of Tolkien's life, and I felt like it didn't really go deep into him as a person, and I didn't really connect to him and some of the characters as much as I wanted. I thought it was a pleasant watch, and it had great themes but it felt like it only scratched the surface with how many of these things, happened to Tolkien and how everything influenced him. So I give this movie a C+. Next up is Rocketman, the Elton John biopic. I ended up liking this movie much more than the Queen biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. I liked the anchor of having Elton John in rehab trying to find himself and going back into the past with what happened in his life. The theme of trying to fit in as well as trying to find love I thought was handled very well, and I found Elton John's story to be very interesting. The acting, especially by Taron Egerton as Elton John, I thought was fantastic. It made me feel like I was watching the real people and not actors recreating them or the situations. It felt like I was watching things as they were unfolding. I felt like they had deep emotion, and I feel like they did their homework on these people. Also, I liked how it was edited. One moment something would be going on and Elton would suddenly be in a different time and place and wondering how he got there. It was probably done that way to give us, the audience, a taste of the nonstop recording, touring, and drug use that had been going on, where everything kind of blended together. What surprised me was that it was a musical. I have nothing against musicals, but the trailer made me feel like it was going to be a straight biopic like Bohemian Rhapsody, but it was actually a jukebox musical as well. Basically, it went through the Elton John catalog, and personally, I would have preferred if they had just done it that way. I'm sure Elton John fans loved hearing, the hits. But sometimes I felt like it stopped the story cold, and when I remember the first instance where that happened was when they were going back to when Elton John was a kid. Him and everyone in the neighborhood was singing "Bitches" back, and I'm like, what? Sometimes it did work. Like, for example, the scene where Elton John is trying to figure out the melody to Your Song, or even Honky Cat, where his manager is helping him Elton John turn into a rock star and introducing him to drugs. But I thought it was a very well done film. It was one of my favorite movies of the summer. I give it a B+. Next up is The Dark Phoenix. It is the final movie in the Fox X-Men series. Now, originally I had no interest in seeing it because I felt like we touched upon the Dark Phoenix in X-Men 3. But my frequent guest reviewer, Darren, wanted to see it, and I went and saw it with him. I thought it had some good ideas, like Mystique and Professor Xavier being at odds once again, and, the dramatic aspect of Jean Grey having a difficult time fitting in. But the final product I thought was just okay. I didn't feel involved in the story as I wanted to. Most of the action scenes I thought were lackluster. Jessica Chastain plays the villain here, and I thought she wasn't really needed. I would rather prefer more screen time on Jean Grey with her struggles and her feeling like everyone is abandoning her. Acting-wise, I thought Ty Sheridan, Alexandra Shipp, and Jennifer Lawrence did well in their roles. I believe it was Sophie Turner. I thought she was okay as Jean Grey. This was screenwriter Simon Kinberg's first time directing a movie, and he seems to know the technical side very well. I thought the visuals and the camera work were done very well, but I thought it was a pedestrian affair, and it had good ideas, just kind of a poor execution, so I give this one a C-. Next up is Aladdin, the latest in the live-action remakes. This one was directed by Guy Ritchie, with Will Smith playing the genie. Will Smith definitely makes the character his own while remaining faithful to what Robin Williams laid down in the animated film. I liked Naomi Scott as Jasmine. I thought she gave a very passionate performance. I really liked that they increased her story. The actor playing Aladdin I thought was a bit bland, but he and Will Smith, they had very good chemistry together. But the person that I thought stole the show was the actor playing Jafar. He used his eyes and facial expressions to really bring out the character. Now, this live-action remake to me didn't feel like a cash grab as some of the other remakes. I felt like they did make an effort to have it be its own film while being faithful to its animated source. The camera work, specifically in the opening credits where we get to know the city of Agrabah, I thought was done very well. I thought some of the plot points were an improvement. The issues that I did have with this movie was I felt like Guy Ritchie's stop-motion camera work was more of a interference. I felt like it was a bit of a distraction that didn't really help the story. Some of the computer animation stuck out for me. And the Cave of Wonders sequence was not as exciting and suspenseful as its animated counterpart. But I thought it was a fun film to check out on the big screen, so I give this one a B. Next up is The Secret Life of Pets. I thought the first movie was a pleasant crowd pleaser. This movie, while amusing, I felt was like I was just as I was watching it, not really caring about what was going on. The first movie I thought had some pretty funny visual gags, but this one I found it to be kind of lacking. I did like the theme of being not being a hover parent, or in the case of Max the dog, being a hover pet. I like that it explored the idea that kids need to learn to make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, learn not to get hurt, and to do things on their own without sugarcoating things. I did like the addition of Harrison Ford as a farm dog named Rooster. And the side characters, I like that they got their own subplots, even though I thought them to be a bit thin. It was a decent time filler, but I didn't really care about the characters as I did the first time, and the gags were not as funny or as memorable. So I give this one a C+. Next is The Lion King, which is a reworking of the 1994 classic Disney animated film. I found this one to be the more redundant of the remakes. While on the technical side, the film looked good. The camera work was good. The CGI I thought was very well done, and it made me feel like I was watching real animals in in Africa. But it was basically telling the same story, and with very little changes. While the other Disney remakes, they did make changes to the story, or they gave the film a fresh new angle. One scene that I thought was improved upon was when Simba and Nala, when they were cubs, are being chased by the hyenas. I thought it was much more suspenseful than the original animated sequence. I did like some of the new jokes that were given to Timon and Pumbaa, and some of the dialogue, however, was almost verbatim, and at times I couldn't help but compare them to the original animated one. The voice cast I thought was competent, but they didn't really, to me, add anything new. Although Seth Rogen I thought was very good as Pumbaa. It was technically a well-made movie, but I left the theater wondering what was the point. But still, I think that I would give this movie a B as well. The next movie was Toy Story 4. Now, this was probably my favorite movie of the summer. I know some people felt like the ending to Toy Story 3 was satisfying, but I thought that this movie was better than that one, although the second one, to me, is still my favorite in the Toy Story series. I thought Toy Story 4 was a solid movie. Unlike Secret Life of Pets 2, I cared about the characters, and this one, for me, it really grabbed my attention right from the beginning. Disney and Pixar, I think, know how to connect the audience with the story. I thought it did a good job at balancing suspense and drama with good visual gags and general humor. I really liked watching the guardian-like relationship between Woody and Forky, who is a childlike character that was created for this film, and it's showing how much Woody cares about him. I found the film to be very relatable. The characters, even the villain, I found to be sympathetic. Bo Peep is back, and she gets more to do in this movie than she did in the past, and I really liked her new sidekick, Giggle McDimples, which is a Polly Pocket-like toy. This movie I thought was touching, comedic, and dramatic, and I think regardless of the age of the audience, people will connect with it in one way or another. I give this movie an A. Next up, Spider-Man Far From Home. It takes place right after Endgame, and I thought it was, again, a solid movie. I like the special effects and action scenes, and Tom Holland once again delivers as Peter Parker. But for me, Samuel L. Jackson stole the movie, which he normally does in a lot of these Marvel movies, as Nick Fury. Jake Gyllenhaal I thought was good as Mysterio, although I thought he could have been a little bit more unhinged. I really liked Zendaya as MJ more in this movie than I did in Homecoming. I realized that underneath this hard exterior there is a good heart, and I cared about her much more here. The movie was loaded with twists and turns. And there were a few times that I felt the snarky humor that the Marvel films are known for to miss a few times, but I did enjoy the movie, but I do think I enjoyed Homecoming a bit more. I like the theme of Peter Parker trying to be a normal teenager while Nick Fury wants him to step it up and be an Avenger. So this movie I gave a B+. And finally, the last movie I saw during the summer blockbuster season was Angry Birds Movie 2. I liked this one a little bit more than the first movie. The first movie I thought was underwhelming and not as funny as it could have been. But this movie I thought was definitely an improvement. I thought the gags, especially in the opening scene and a bit later on involving the characters dressed up as an eagle when they infiltrate Eagle Island, to be very funny. The movie definitely is not boring, and I found myself chuckling more than laughing out loud, but I liked the characters a bit more here, and I liked the theme of working together and putting the differences aside. So I thought that this was a pleasant time waster. I gave it a B-. Alright, well that's all the movies I saw during the summer blockbuster season. I noticed there was quite a lot of Disney movies this summer. There was, like I said, there was the Marvel movies, there was Toy Story, there was the Disney remake, so we were loaded with a lot of Disney movies this summer. So what did you think of these summer movies? What was your favorite? What was your least favorite? Do you agree with anything that I said, or is there some stuff that you disagree with? Please put them in the comment box below. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, please do so. Alright, well thank you very much for watching.